So before we begin, I would like to respectfully acknowledge that the Alzheimer Society of B.C. operates on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of Indigenous peoples around the province, and I am presenting to you from the unceded traditional territory of the Malahat, the Kawatsan, and the Wasanic nations on Vancouver Island. So, our vision of a province whereby people living with dementia feel acknowledged, welcomed, and included will only be possible if they have access to resources and supports that are barrier free, which includes being free from any form of racism, including Indigenous specific racism. So I want to especially thank everyone for joining us for this important conversation as we're going to explore not just the changes that accompany a diagnosis of dementia, but the evolving nature of family dynamics. So before I introduce our special guest speakers, I would like to take a moment to speak a little bit about today's topic. So our conversation today might at times be a little bit uncomfortable. We are going to explore like the deep human side of living with this disease and the impact that it has on the family unit. We're going to discuss some tough themes around change, vulnerability, and how our roles within our family structure can shift and evolve over time. And we'll talk about the struggle to balance independence while providing support and the importance of maintaining reciprocal relationships. So we want to acknowledge that this discussion may evoke a range of emotions, and this is a space for open and honest dialogue and a shared learning space. And we're just grateful that each of you are here with us today to participate in this conversation. During the webinar, we will hear from a couple, Brian and Penny, and a father and daughter duo, Fred and Katie. And our panelists will explore the impact dementia has both on romantic relationships and the relationship between adult child and parent. And during our planning sessions, we wanted to let you know that we are all fully on board to tackle this difficult but really important topic. And we're pretty expressive people, so we might share a little bit of tears here or get emotional together. I can guarantee we're going to share some laughs. We have a lot of humor as a really therapeutic way of coping with some of the tougher subjects that'll come up. And we're just ready to embrace it with all of you here today. And I also want to acknowledge that each story and journey through dementia is unique. And today we'll be focusing on just two relationships, but we understand that every family copes with dementia in their own way, and there's no one size fits all approach. So we're all unique in how we travel this journey together. Our hope today is that by sharing these lived experience, they may resonate with you and help you feel a little less alone on your own journey, or there might be a takeaway from our conversation that will be helpful to you as you navigate change in your own family. And so, just again, a really warm welcome to everybody for joining us today. We encourage you to connect with each other in the chat box, as well as show your support for our guest speakers. So it's now my great pleasure to introduce our guests. So first, I would like to introduce Brian and Penny, who are popular returning guests to our lived experience webinar series. So for some of you, they may be familiar faces. Brian and Penny call Prince George home, and Brian worked for many years as an education assistant, supporting several students with disabilities to graduate. And Penny has dedicated her career to supporting people as a registered psychiatric nurse. They were beginning to look forward to the next chapter of their life together when Penny began noticing changes in Brian in 2021. So he received a diagnosis of young onset dementia 1 year later in his mid 50s. After grieving, Brian and Penny decided to continue living life to the fullest. Brian redefines what it looks like to live with young onset dementia through his love for competing in sporting events and raising greater awareness of the disease as dementia advocates. And I'm very pleased to have both Penny and Brian as lived experience partners with the Alzheimer Society of B.C. So thank you so very much for being here today. If you want to give a little wave to our audience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, and next I'd like to introduce our father-daughter duo, Fred and Katie. So I've had the pleasure of working with Fred on quite a few education sessions now. I think we make pretty good co-facilitators, and I'm now delighted to welcome his daughter, Katie, to our webinar stage for the first time. So Fred has been living with mild cognitive impairment, otherwise known as MCI, for several years. He has worked in the film and television industry for most of his career. He is joined by his daughter, Katie, who currently runs a wealth management firm in New York City. So Katie flies home to BC and accompanies Fred on any travel or work-related needs as he's transitioning into retirement. Fred is currently navigating the new normal of dealing with an MCI diagnosis, in part through his involvement with the Society's Lived Experience Partner Program, as well as being a 2025 Alzheimer's Awareness Month spokesperson, and he is a proud member of the UBC IDEA Lab. So a big warm welcome to both Fred and Katie. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
It's truly our pleasure. I'm just going to take a moment to bring down the screen share, and then we'll jump right into our discussion. Okay. All right, so we're going to start today's discussion by talking about change. So as dementia progresses, we do tend to see changes in one's abilities, and these changes can have an impact on our own self-identity as well as the roles that we hold in our family and in the broader community. And so, Brian and Penny, if you don't mind, I'm going to start with you. And I'd like to ask you about the changes that you've noticed following Brian's diagnosis and how those changes have impacted your relationship.
I start? Go ahead.
Oh, I get to start. Thank you, Brian.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. So Brian was diagnosed because we noticed things like where's the light switch? And, I'd be compassionately saying same place it's been for 20 years. What's wrong with you? Once the diagnosis happened, obviously it's a declining disease. So the biggest things that we struggle with day to day are it's Alzheimer's. So memory is probably the top one. Paranoia is one that really impacts because Brian has never had that before. So that's a real one that impacts us greatly. Personality changes are a huge one for Brian. He's no longer the soft, gentle giant. He's sassy, which is a new thing for Brian, and can be quite verbally aggressive at times, which has never happened. So that's a huge impact on us, particularly as a couple, because it's like a knife in my heart. So I have to really say that's not him doing that. That's the Alzheimer's. But at the moment it happens, that's very hard to navigate emotionally, right? Without shutting down, because you also don't want to shut down and not be present. So really, really difficult, right? And the humor that Brian has now, he's always been a humorous guy, but now it's expressed differently. And he's got this cutting humor that many people appreciate, not so much myself, but many others appreciate. That he's now back talking me. I didn't like that.
Yeah, you don't mind.
I don't mind. Right? Yeah.
The only thing I would add also, what Penny said is all true. I just find like usually I'd be a fairly in control kind of guy, and that's like of my emotions of what I'm doing, and now a lot of that has sort of slid, and it's sort of like a roll of the dice what the day brings, because where there was stability before, which is fair to say,
Mhm.
now emotional stability particularly, that's sort of it's a hit and miss. You right now I think we're doing okay, but my perception of things tends to be well, we'll get into it later, but inaccurate quite often. And that lack that slide what's the word, that beginning diminished sense of not clear insight
Mm.
that's beginning to become more pronounced.
And I think the biggest hit, or navigating the lack of insight, because this is fairly new, is in discussing forms need to be filled out. You know, there's always forms when you have any illness. And one of the questions is, how often does this disease affect you? And Brian's like, somewhat. And I'm like, somewhat? Are you kidding me? I was a bit more verbal than that, but we're being
The
recorded.
correct answer would be every day.
So he doesn't see it as impacting himself or the family where it's in our face
Yeah.
all the time. Right. So he's starting to slide in what he perceives as what's happening around him.
I am aware, but depending on the issue, I think that's important, depending on the issue and the other people involved, that sort of, that is a adds to the variety of responses I give. So
Unless it's sports.
unless it's sports, then I'm all in. But yeah, so that's pretty well it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Do you
had a
mind?
question actually.
Yes.
Well, meaning because I feel the same way of there's obviously there's good days and bad days, but we're finding that even the good days or take work on the other people's part to ensure that it's a good day. It's not,
Yes.
so yeah, when you said that, it struck me of, yeah, we're all navigating good and bad days, but even the good days, the amount of support that is needed in order to have a good day is still on the others to make sure things are set up and lined and helping a good day become a good day. So
Yeah, and quite often I'll think I'm having a fabulous day, but it's only okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think too, the good day can be a good day for a moment.
Yes.
And then
Mm.
suddenly it's a small thing happens that before would have just floated past your head and now it's a bad day.
Yeah.
So you're continually having to change your responses.
And I get and true about that insight. I get that, and I know how much of a struggle it is for all of them. But like it's it's tough here too. It's tough in this pair of
Inside,
shoes.
inside.
Uh, so it's I'm not oblivious, but yeah. Anyways,
But I think you're right, Katie, is that, you know, what what the person themselves who diagnosed doesn't always see is the stuff we don't talk about, that we used to always talk about everything, but it's just not worth that emotional response or triggering or get into a fight, you know. Because I mean, for 26 years, we've actually never had a fight because he's crap at it. You know, he just cries, so it's really not worth it, right? But now, the new Brian wants to have a go. Just leave it. I go into the garden and hide, literally, right? Or we make sure we have space.
Well, as they say in the Alzheimer Society, we got the diagnosis, but it's the family are the people who live with the disease on a daily basis as well.
very much, very much.
Yeah, definitely. We see this disease, maybe even more so than others, has an impact on everyone involved, the family, the friends, the community. If you're still in the workforce, your colleagues, and it really takes everybody to, I think, unite. And your question is great, Katie, because there is a lot of like scaffolding that tends to need to be in place to set the person up for success, and support those good days or moments. And it truly is a lot of living in the present moment, because it may not be a full good day, but there are good moments. Thank you for sharing, some of those changes that have impacted your life. And if I could ask you, Penny, to elaborate a little bit. I know you've spoken a lot in other sessions around when it's a romantic relationship, a spousal relationship, and keeping it reciprocal,
Yes.
and the word caregiver. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about
That's
your thoughts
amazing.
on that, and how it's impacted your spousal relationship.
Right. Brian just said the
When you
term
said
caregiver.
I
The
know
term
it's a hot button.
not so hot. So I take offense to being called a caregiver. And my stance is that, you know, at some point I may be Brian's partner that provides care for him, but I am his spouse. And
Yeah.
in my world, because of this disease, I will be losing everything about Brian. I'll be losing my rock. I'll be losing the one person that I fully trusted in this world, fully trusted, you know, which was his pride and joy. But I am not going to lose the term spouse and be called a caregiver because it grieves me. Like I will always be his spouse. Even when I'm doing jobs for him I don't want to do, I will always be his spouse. But as the roles change, you know, as Brian declines, you know, we're spouses, you know, and what people don't, I talk about the things people don't want to talk about. Like we're intimate, we're lovers, right? And that changes dramatically post-diagnosis. You know, he forgets to make me happy, is the bottom line, you know, and things that were always his job or his initiative or his role is no longer there, and it's very difficult for me to take on those roles. Some of them I don't want to, and some of them I'm not good at, you know, and some of them has always been his place. So it's another loss. If I have to do that now, where he always did it, then I'm losing again. So it's this constant grieving. So how do we navigate and be staying together as a couple and keep that intimacy and keep that, I call it lust. You know, how do we keep that going when sometimes you're, you know, doing personal care issues with your loved one? That's not
Mhm.
sexy. That's not hot, right? Like we have never actually peed in front of each other in 26 years. Like we just don't, we're not that couple. And that's going to change dramatically. Like, you know,
So,
did you forget to shut the door? You know, even those people think about a lot about personal care that you have to provide for the person that you love, but there's a lot more to it, right? You know, and I always talk a lot about, you know, love language, and we're going to get to that. But for people who are in any role with anybody with dementia, if they love them, that love language is there. That person's always done something, usually for you, and some people it's an action, it's a gift, whatever it is. That that gets lost, and people don't talk about that. You know, they
Yeah.
talk about, you know, finances, they talk about work, they talk about personal care issues, but they don't actually talk about intimacy and love language, right? And post-diagnosis, you know, it's bad enough now, so where's it going? And where do I end up being? You know, so those are big things. But yeah, please don't call me caregiver because it gets my back up and then I'm not pleasant. I'm trying really hard to be pleasant.
No, I really appreciate your take on that, and the reciprocity has to be there, the spousal relationship for as long as possible. It's really important to you, and I think it's not something that we talk about enough of. It does impact intimacy, and it impacts the spousal relationship on all levels. And so I really do appreciate your willingness to talk about it. And I hope that makes someone else feel a little less alone in navigating that situation themselves. Fred and Katie, I'm gonna invite you to talk a little bit about the changes, Fred, that you've noticed in yourself, and Katie, the changes that you've noticed in your dad, and how changing roles and responsibilities have impacted your relationship as a father-daughter.
Fred, why don't you start?
Pardon me?
Fred, why don't you start?
Oh, okay. Well, the sorry way to put this. The changes are certainly obvious to me in my behaviors uh, every time I goof something up. Someone mentioned filling out forms, uh, uh, things I used to do that I'm not capable of doing now, and uh, taking care of the bookkeeping or accounting or the banking or even the computer here. You know, some mornings I'll pop it open and think to myself, now what? What exactly are we doing here? Um, so they're painfully obvious to me, and at the same time, I'm trying to hide them from family members, and for that matter, anybody else I meet on the street. Uh, with varying consequences. So I'm painfully is probably too strong a word. I'm quite aware of my vulnerabilities, my repetitive asking of the same questions over and over again, uh, misplacement of, you name it, keys, wallet, um, and repetitive uh, cycles of misplaced articles. It's not right in front of me.
Yeah.
I don't see it. And my wife, on the other hand, has become just like Inspector Morse. If the keys go missing in my already tumbled up room, every drawer, there are no secrets in my room anymore. She goes through them like, the Rockford Files, and which is fine. I just have them in something I think of as an order in the drawers, and I spend the rest of the day trying to remember where I put the things that she has now put in a much smarter and easily accessible place. So I mean, for me, the difference between dementia and what I've got, this MCI, mild cognitive impairment, is, I mean, dementia is, in my mind, uh, a life-changing situation. And what I've got, this mild cognitive impairment, is, in my own words, a life-irritating situation. The repetition of the now odd habits that I've fallen into or that I've fallen prey to on a daily basis is just irritating as all get out. Because when I put my head down for a nap or something, I can't escape the fact that I'm not necessarily going to be any better at all at anything when I wake up from that nap. I'm back in that land again where
Mm.
things are not what they seem. So um, it's irritating
Yeah.
to put it mildly.
If I may, sorry everybody, but
No.
when you talk about the naps, like there was a period of time where I was my sleep patterns were all altered, and I explained to Penny that I didn't want to go to sleep because I didn't like how I felt when I woke up.
Yeah.
And I'd be confused. And like you said, back in, there's some sort of relief when you were asleep from it. But when you
Yeah.
wake up, you're back in that confusion. And it's not overwhelming sometimes, but just enough to be irritating. But yeah, and some days more. But I totally identify with what you said about going for a nap and with before you go into the land of Nod, you're not going to wake up better. You're just going to wake up later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if when our paths have crossed before like this on screen, if I mentioned this before, but when I was in this sort of acceptance of my new normal situation, I'd go to bed at night, put my head on a pillow, and it was as if a little voice was whispering in my ear, uh, you can try to get sleep if you want, but you got it. And
Yes.
when you wake up tomorrow, you still got it. And
Yep.
it's not going to get better. And honestly, I got to a point where I uh, physically, when I started to think like that inside, I I would physically try and sweep that out of my mind as if I was swatting at a swarm of mosquitoes, and it actually works.
Oh, good.
Just the physicality of get away from me, will you? Seemed to in an odd way calm me down and let me get on with trying to get what sleep I can, kind of thing. But yeah, irritating. But I think all of us have probably had loved ones, relatives, friends who have had experienced much more painful diseases or uh, ends, for that matter.
Yeah. I think
So,
that kind of visualization trick that you talked about is quite effective for many people when those negative thoughts start flooding you. I've heard some people say they envision a stop sign and they even might say the word stop, or I
ah,
love this swatting the mosquito, but doing something physical that actually stops your body from spiraling. But it must be quite exhausting, kind of having it weighing on you there. Gotta
it's,
learn to live with.
my, my, my little friend. Yeah,
Thank you,
yeah.
Fred. Katie, what have you noticed kind of changing for your dad, and has that had any impact on your relationship with him?
Yeah, I mean, I mirror what Penny said of the mood changes that we saw at the very, very beginning when we were starting to see some changes. The mood was one of the most in our face as a family, just because in general through his life, dad was the chill, calm, collected of the parents. And that really has flipped, whereas my mom now is more the sense of calm. I mean, we all have our moments, but so the mood changes definitely. I agree with what Penny was saying of going from a 0 to 100, or the anger that we never really saw before, and being on the outside of it, not able to understand, but also empathize with the fact that it's like, it's just keys. We'll find the keys. We have to move on from this spiral. We're not like getting angry or getting in this perpetual cycle of just, it'll be one slight step to the side, and the whole day is gone. And you can see it physically, you can see it emotionally. He can't wipe it. So if he were to forget his wallet, there was a situation that happened a few months ago where he went to the bank. He was in line at the bank holding what he thought was his card. And then when he got up to take his turn, he didn't have his wallet. So panic starts. So it's, now all the bankers are looking. We live in a small community. We've been going to the same bank for 20 years. Everyone knows him. Everyone is aware. Everyone, so it's helpful in that way. But he came racing back. He had searched, everywhere, the car, the outside, the parking lot, the this, and it goes into immediate panic mode of cancel all the credit cards, go to Save On to get a new Save On card. That was hilariously number two of all the emergency things, was to get a new Save On card for his Save On points. But all to say, in this 3 hours of complete mayhem, his wallet the whole time was on his desk. So he never actually had the wallet in his hand. And so we canceled stuff. We got everything replaced. We did it. Everything was fine. It wasn't stolen, right? We had checked, we'd frozen everything. Everything was okay. Like everyone was safe and everything was okay. He was stuck. That spiraled him for days, days, that he would wake up, he was not getting up the next day. There was a whole cloud, the whole kind of lens on it, that it's harder for him, like water off a duck's back. So that's definitely because he was Mr. Positive the whole forever. The biggest thing for someone that would be life changing, or I just lost my job, or I'm going through a divorce, any major thing, he's always Mr. like, well, this is a great new opportunity for you, and so that shift of things has been something that we're all trying to help him um, get back, or get off, get it rinse and repeat and start fresh. So yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that. And can we talk a little bit about asking and receiving help? Because I know you travel with your dad now. Has that shift been hard for either of you, or has it brought you closer? Because sometimes we talk about impacting relationships, and it can be positive too. Um, how has that been, kind of relying on each other maybe more than you did in the past?
I mean, there's definitely positives, like more, I would say there's more positives than negatives at this point. We've always been very close. We've always been dad and daughter. We've traveled a lot throughout both of our lives together. So it really was a family decision that we had to make. I have a mom and a brother, so we had to kind of come together as a family to make a decision of work is the most important thing to him. And so in order for him to continue doing what he feels is essential for his purpose on earth, then we needed to, we knew and recognized very quickly that a lot of the confusion we were seeing was even on personal family trips. It's too much. It's a lot going on. The airport and the checking in and the um, purchase or renting 6 rental cars for one trip or buying 4 plane tickets for the same trip. So that was happening more and more. So we knew that we had to help assist on the back end of like the administrative part, but we really knew that if it was happening like that, that he needed some assistance actually doing his job as well. So I don't know. I think it probably came more to an annoyance to him that he got like a babysitter. The first few years, when it wasn't as public, it was good because we had been like it was not uncommon that I would be around in even professional settings throughout my life. So it wasn't a huge red flag. It was just more me helping or kind of twisting it that way. But I'm sure that I mean, it's still, I mean, we tiff about very, very simple things. But at the end of the day, we can come back and say, well, do you want to be able to get on stage and do this or not? Because you can't without me here. So I still need you to shower and eat and brush your teeth and take your pills. And so that's why and so there is some definite, friction I think when he feels he doesn't need the help or assistance. But I think for me at least, dad might have a completely different point of view. But I I have been very, very grateful and thankful that kind of a full circle moment that I've been able to travel again with him and see him as he sunsets that part of his life because it's such an important part and big part of his life. So it's been awesome for me to be able to have that extra time with him.
And are you aware of how appreciative I am of that?
Yes.
Okay. Just checking. Because I
Thank
am.
you.
We know.
Uh, It's so important to verbalize that appreciation, I think. It goes a long way, I think, in any family relationships, because it's hard to accept help for all of us, right? And we all want to protect our independence, and it's difficult to feel vulnerable and to rely on somebody else, especially when you've been so independent your whole life. And so, yeah, I think just expressing that gratitude can be an incredible shift in many ways. Well, I want to thank all of you for talking about those changes. I know it's not an easy topic, and talking about how relationships are impacted. There is a question in the chat box that is on topic, so I thought maybe before we moved on, we could address it. So the question says, my wife has always had some memory issues and had difficulty like with time and losing things, but it's been happening more frequently. And her response is that she's not noticing it. It's just the way she's always been. I don't know if I should tell her about the increasing frequency or that it's worrying me. And this individual is worried about risking her confidence, especially in company. So I think, again, that balance of wanting to protect somebody's dignity and not wanting them maybe to make any errors in front of people. So can you speak to that? How do you balance kind of protecting dignity and maybe not pointing out things, but also not wanting the person to struggle?
Well, that's probably a keystone of our how things are changing for us. I say things that aren't true. But I know they are, you know, and my Penny, as well as our kids, um, and I know this. They've said, unless it's a safety issue, um, they'll let it go. But if we're in public or something, then then there's sort of body language, sort of like, okay, like you're on the wrong track. Okay? Like, they're very respectful of me. They don't like, because I think your exact quote was, "Who gives a shit?" Right, right. Like if you're, they yeah. Oops, censored. Where's that bleep button? Um, and that's the change too, isn't it? I would never have said that, right? Yeah, but um, no, they've been very respectful of me. Will continue to be respectful of me, but yeah, like you called it confabulation, right?
That's what it's called.
Yeah, and you're very smart.
I am. I think that, when things started changing for Brian and, where's the light switch? How do you work the furnace? It's really was irritating for me because I'm like, you're just not listening. And losing things, Brian, 26 years, but the keys and the wallet, everything goes in the basket. No, it doesn't. It goes under the couch. It goes, that's always been an issue for Brian.
Oh yeah,
Nothing to do with Alzheimer's, right? The change comes is when it becomes a safety issue or a consequence or dignity. So if people's behaviors are changing or the memory is becoming more difficult, at what point do you intervene? That's a huge question. At what point do you
Mhm.
say, you know what, something's wrong here? It took about 6 months for me to convince Brian something was wrong. But those are hard conversations because he's like, no, it's not. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm like, no, in my professional opinion, you're not. You're not fine. You're not fine. You're not fine. Right. But it's a very fine line and it's a tight wire that you tread addressing it with the person. But if it's impacting quality of life, if it's impacting dignity, that's the time it needs to get addressed. But can
Yeah.
we address it ahead of time so it doesn't impact dignity, it doesn't impact quality of life? But getting the testing done is not easy, and depending where you live, access to resources can be tough. But for me, as the family member, as the loved one, getting that diagnosis took it all off. There I was blaming Brian for his inability to cope with life. Here you are failing at things, and
you always used that were never an issue prior.
never an issue prior. The keys and wallet, that was always an issue.
Yeah,
Right. But when it said, oh, this is Alzheimer's, oh yeah, it was like a punch in the gut. And we never expected that because it's not in Brian's family. But at least it gave a reason of why this was happening. So it was easier then for me to respond better. So I was grateful, not grateful that he has Alzheimer's, but grateful for the diagnosis to explain the behavior, which then helped my emotional ability to cope with what was happening. So
Yeah.
testing is important, right?
yes.
Yeah, we had a very similar experience as well of the not truths, but it's his truth. So we do a very similar, like I'll touch on it later too, of like, is it hurting him or is it hurting him? Is it hurting who he is trying to be? Is it danger? And if the answer is no, then like we just roll our eyes and continue. It doesn't matter. It's not worth the fight. Um, as a example, and like it's maybe it's funny now, I guess we'll see. Is his one of Fred's, when he presents a lot, he talks about his diagnosis and when us as a family sat down and talked to him about it. That never happened. So we're hearing him talk and we're all like, okay. And so us individually, and I think it's also like when we would bring it up to him, it would be reading the room. We wouldn't be doing it in public. We wouldn't be doing it at a dinner when he's telling this whole thing. It's like, okay. And then it's later, it's like, that actually wasn't the truth, but it's fun. It's, it's kind of pick your time, pick your place, pick if it's worth it. But it was kind of a revelation to him of it was his truth. Like he thought a dinner happened, that all four of us sat down and we made plans. And then the next day he asked us a question and all of us were upset. And so for us, we were all like, okay. And we again made a decision as a family. You know what, Fred, like if that's how you want to, like, it doesn't hurt us. It doesn't hurt him. If that's what he wants, the truth, like we're kind of just, it's picking your battles kind of that. And, yeah. So I don't know.
And
Now what I get is, I'm sure my fact checker will correct me if I'm wrong. I'm like,
I don't say it with attitude. It's all meant because I know how invaluable that is to me, because I don't want to look like a BSer, right?
Right.
yeah,
And if you and my mom, who's passed away years ago, always said, why let the facts get in the way of a good story?
Right.
So I use that.
I mean,
I love that.
one of the folks in the chat box asked if either of us are still driving. And to put it quickly, I mean, the last thing I want to lose is my driver's license, even though I may already have lost my mind. But one of the hottest discussions we had as a family was when I was invited to make a presentation up in Kamloops, which is about a 3.5 hour drive from where we live. And there was a stipend and everything, and a motel room with my name on it. And the family said, "What? Are you nuts? Driving to Kamloops?" I said, "It's 2 left turns, for heaven's sake. I drive out to Hope and I turn left. And then at the end of the thing, I'll drive out and turn left and come back home. I've been there 100 times. This time you think I'm incapable of, and I'm still, as far as I'm concerned, as you can tell, it's not finished. I mean, I still dream at night when I have the time of driving up to Kamloops and calling my wife and saying, "You'll never guess where I am," and still alive in Kamloops. Got a lovely room, and I'll be home tomorrow for lunch, And but that would probably be the end of that relationship. So
And I mean,
I
again,
have yet to do that.
truthfully is yes, he is still driving. He's driving within our community of Maple Ridge, which is 10 or 15 minutes from each side. He's no longer really doing solo into downtown Vancouver out things that he would do with his eyes closed, for years and years. We're doing Ubers, or we have a local driver, or there is someone in the car with him if he's the driver. Just because roads have changed, parking lots have changed, he might be able to get there, but it's quite difficult in using his phone to pay for parking or in a parking lot of not knowing where he parked. So there's different layers to that of we were told by his medical team to try to keep the driving as local, but to try to keep him driving in those local areas to see how long we can keep it. But us as a family, we are assessing that at a pretty regular basis of when the time comes.
And I think I'm
when.
the safest and slowest driver I've been in decades, frankly. I become the guy I used to honk at, basically.
We're
And
now looking at not speeding. We're going too slow sometimes. Of like we have to keep up to traffic. We
well, when
can't
people come a
react.
little too close behind me, I just roll the window down. It's just go on. Whatever you're doing must be much more important than what I'm doing. Just pass me.
Yeah.
It
Yeah, and then the only other thing that is kind of funny, but not at the same time, is he kind of self-selected out of driving by accident for weeks because he lost his car keys and we don't have a replacement. So and we only have, so there are times where there were weeks that he didn't because we quite frankly just didn't have a key, and it was we weren't going to pay $1,000 for a new, like there was, so there are ways in the future when we come to that of as a family and with him. But yeah, it's going to be one of the biggest fights is taking those keys away.
often,
Um,
sorry, go ahead, Brian.
oh, I was just gonna, to answer the question, I gave up my license last September. It was and is the single most irritating loss in this whole thing because
I get that.
it it affects independence, self-worth, uh, just a feeling of contribution.
Yeah.
And it's a driver's license, for goodness sakes. Like it's not like it's, but I mean, and it's been huge. And I've had I there's been a few issues over it. There's been some blame saying that Penny forced me to do it, and which isn't the case. We agreed, and yeah, so driver's license is a huge one, but no, for the safety, and the biggest, the most absolute base reason is I didn't want to kill anybody.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, and what Brian was saying, if I hurt somebody, I'll never forgive myself. And I said, you will forget.
Yeah.
I will not
Oh,
forgive myself. Like that's the issue, is the family
Yeah.
member
Yeah.
or the person, because
yeah.
Brian will eventually forget if he hurts somebody, but
Right.
I won't forget it. My memory is somewhat intact.
Yeah, it's
right?
Fair
it's
enough.
coming up on a year, and it's still an incredibly sore point.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
But it was also, as a couple, it was a huge learning curve, because I can't tell you how many conversations we had about surrendering, not having it taken,
Yeah.
because that was a huge thing for Brian, as for anybody. Conversation, conversation,
Yeah.
conversation, and we're on the same page. We're on the same
Yeah.
page. He's decided June 1st he's given up his license. He
Yeah.
then turned left, crossing 2 lanes, and nearly killed me. And when I went, oh my God, you nearly killed me, he went, they have a yield. And I said, I will go into this appointment. You go find that damn yield, because there is no
There
yield.
was no-
There was no yield. And he came back, and it was attacking me that I decided he was surrendering his license June 1st. And I'm like, so that's where we came up with the idea of the book that says, the notebook says, sorry, I have a bit of dementia today. But in there, Brian has to write big decisions he makes and sign it.
Yeah.
So he changed the date to September 1st, which was agreeable. And he wrote in there, because otherwise it's not my fault. We made a decision. But
Mm.
I didn't realize that he had forgotten we made that decision, and now, but with the paranoia, it was me attacking him.
Yeah.
So we came up with a strategy to navigate this in the future, right?
And again, everything Penny's saying is true, but it's still rankles.
And just to
Mhm.
point out to anybody that doesn't, we live in northern BC, so our
There's no
transit
transit,
is,
yeah.
every half an hour after a walk of 20 minutes and -30, and hopefully
Yeah.
the bus comes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know my wife is a lot less anxious when she drives and I'm sitting next to her than the other way around. And which I don't mind for a number of reasons, not the least of which I already know I am probably 98% 8% of the source of her anxiety, about driving or any number of other issues.
We also, too, I want to add just another thing. We all, as a family, when we were starting becoming more, assessing whether when things need to happen, we all turned on a tracking app, all of us. So it wasn't just we're tracking dad, he tracks me too. It's a family app. We open it up, we can see where everyone is. It includes driving and driving times and driving routes. So we use that when he is by himself driving or doing something, or if we're expecting him home and he's not. We know that he stopped at Save On, or that he can't find the senior center, so he's going in loops for 10 minutes, which we think is funny. We wouldn't call him because then he'd be angry that we're tracking him. But our group chat is like, oh, he missed the turn again. Oh, he missed the turn. And so we see him doing the kind of the little, we know he's safe again. We see he's driving at 30 kilometers. And, like all of the safety checks are in a little bit of that. But that has also been a tool that we've been using. And I mean, I know my mom checks on me all the time because I'm in a different city every week, and she'll be like, saw that you're in the hotel. Okay, love you. So it's kind of a two-way street of that. Again, it's not us being the bad guy following him. It kind of was opened up a good, as a group, we're all, let's put it all out on, like, no one has secrets of where we are or how fast we're going or where we're doing it. So that's helped a
I have
little
been
bit.
known to turn that off occasionally and just go into a diner and have a newspaper and a couple cups of coffee just to
Testing.
keep them on their toes. And soon enough, the iPhone will ring and, where are you?
Where are you?
I just,
The good thing is, oh, sorry, go ahead, Penny.
I was just gonna say, I just mentioned, for us, that would be, we have a similar app, with one of my children that has anxiety. We track each other, so I know where she is, but more importantly, her anxiety is less when she knows where I am. But you
Yeah.
can't do that with somebody that uses a flip phone,
Correct.
and can't navigate a smartphone. You can't be using no app.
I am a proud Luddite.
Yeah.
So Brian he's showing you, he's got
Yeah.
a pendant he wears where
Yeah.
I can track him. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it,
And we looked at that too,
Is-
of having like a little air tag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's more like right now, Brian, manages well, but more for me, because when he says I'm gonna be 2 hours and it's 4 hours, I can see he's at the Y and he's probably talking to somebody, he'd be talking sports. But our grandson always says, "Hey, Grandpa, you got on your homing device?"
Mm. Thank you all for addressing that question. There's a lot of people in the chat mentioning driving and it being one of the most difficult things to do on this journey. And I think it's one decision that does really impact the family, and it can be hard to get everybody on the same page around that decision. So we do have some great information online if that is a concern, and some checklists and things like that. But yeah, no, a great topic to address. So kind of moving on to our next theme is around the future and how things may evolve and change. And there can be often a lot of, I think, fear and apprehension and anxiety around what is the future going to hold, especially when you're living with a progressive disease. And so, Fred and Katie, I'll ask you to share first, but how do you envision your relationship evolving in the future? And do you have any hopes or concerns about the journey ahead?
I mean, I think us as a family, our hope and what we're hoping to instill now as he progresses is just that he's happy and that we keep him at a level that he is comfortable and happy and not anxious or angry or spirally. So anything that we can set him up for success that way. Again, like we're practicing yes days, which we kind of touched on before, but like how many yeses can we do? Because there are some absolute no's that we just have to continue saying. So it's like if he wants to wake up and have a pint of chocolate ice cream for breakfast, like Is it going to kill him? No. Is it dangerous to anyone? No. So then, okay, like it's okay, like just trying to find as many yeses as we can to kind of offset the no's that we just inevitably will have to do.
Well, I didn't know that was allowed, or I would have been doing that for a
Oh,
couple
yeah.
of months now.
You just had a pint of ice cream like 3 weeks ago for dinner, which was exactly where I brought that from.
Well, there was a peanut in it, so there was protein involved.
Yeah. So yeah, we're just trying to keep him at a level. We bring in, you know, as much as routine and he fights it. It's trying to keep him as consistent so that we try to offset the progression as much as we possibly can, whether that's just for our own selfish like placebo effect that it's going to help or not, but that's what we as a family are trying to do to keep the future bright for him.
Well,
Love that.
certainly, I'd like to think that our relationship will be continually evolving. The concerns I have are, again, and you've already touched on this, those rocky days, the days when nothing seems to be going particularly right, that can quickly tumble into kind of a blue period. Um, and and again, as I say, I try to comply with uh, what the family suggests to me, because I know they have my best interests at heart, and that's a given. Uh, uh, at the same time, I know that my occasional lack of compliance or taking up suggestions as quickly as they might wish I did is a source of anxiety for my son and daughter and my wife, and that that's a big concern to me. One of the biggest losses in terms of uh, getting this diagnosis had to do with what I lost in terms of, and the guilt I incurred for not being able to be the guy that was the guy I used to be, and that the kids could look up to and rely on. And you know, it kills me when I think uh, the that now when we have family meetings or something, uh, I just hate to leave them hanging with, now what? You know, what next? Or when we put that fire out, what it just I have real guilt about not uh, not being as capable in the skill sets that I used to be capable in. The household chores, or the taxes, or the banking, stuff like that. And as Brian said, I'm a real Luddite as well, technically, always have been, frankly, and was relatively competent on a computer. And now these days, sometimes when I open it up, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Takes me a minute to try and remember what the hell I opened it up for, and then to put together whatever I want to do. Mind you, I actually I don't type badly, but I do use the if your computer has a dictation button where you can simply uh, speak your email or message or something to whoever you're corresponding with. I find that a good help, or at least a good first draft for something. Then it's there in front of me, and I can go back and kind of correct or edit along the way after that. But I've never been technically uh, uh, or
Scrappy.
handy. Never been handy. I inherited my dad's entire toolbox, and that screwdriver has helped me out of all sorts of jams over the years.
Got it.
You two are like a match. Brian's not allowed to use the tools even before. For anybody else online, I'm assuming that Luddite means old school. That's one of those fancy words I don't know.
No use for technology.
No use for, okay, is that what that means? I was like, I don't even know what that means. Anti-tech.
Luddite,
Anti-tech.
I
Thank you so
think
much.
Luddites were the ones that rose up when they invented either the steam engine or the automatic weaving loom or something like that.
I was gonna
And
say the printing press, but that's
Okay.
I was
I
thinking the
also did
roots before
not
the
know
name.
the roots
Thank you,
behind
Kim.
that,
Thank
that
you.
word. But
Awesome.
apparently the chat is saying you two give Luddites a good name. So there you go.
well, there's something good has come out of this already, Brian.
I
Well
think
then.
so. As I've said many times, when it comes to my use of skills, I lift things. That's what I do.
Okay.
But as far as our how do I see it? Like I am very, 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 very worried about how this is going to evolve. Right. I've seen we've seen people's progression, and ultimately it's never good. And I just want to be present for as long as I can be, because I know there's going to be a time with no matter how much hard work is put into it, I won't be. And it's not like, with respect to individuals living with cancer, there's still a possibility, and cancer is the first thing you can recover. There's a anyways. You don't with dementia, Alzheimer's, any of these degenerative diseases. And my fear is what's going to happen when I can't be present.
And I think this,
Yeah.
my kind of saying right now is, it turns out that love and lust is not enough. We have to be practical. I do a lot of work to emotionally protect myself. One of the things I work on is, I'm a nurse for 40 years. So in order to deal with this, I can go into nursing role and Brian become my patient. He is not my patient. He is my partner. And I need to be present as his partner, not as a nurse. A nurse would protect me, but be useless for our relationship. Right.
Right.
So we do a lot of work on maintaining our presence there. When the question was asked, what are our concerns for the future? Everything. So, and Brian will get upset, but Brian has agreed these things need to be spoken about. Brian's 6'4" and a power lifter. He's a big, strong man, right? And he started becoming verbally aggressive. We've had 2 instances of attempted physical aggression. Luckily, I'm a bit handy myself, having worked in psychiatry a lot of years, good at the duck and weave. And it breaks his heart that he would be that person. Right. So that's it. We had one of the doctors say to us, "Oh, don't worry, you could be pleasantly confused for 20 years." I said, "Do you want to put that in writing?" Like I have worked on the wards full of people with dementia, so I know where we're going, but I also have worked on the wards full of dementia, so I know what I don't want for Brian. And dignity is the top concern that we talk a lot about, right?
Yeah.
Now, the paranoia is very difficult to manage. We've had some incidents of psychosis where Brian, it's one thing telling a story that something happened differently. There's another thing telling me you had to threaten people because the car has stopped 3 nights in a row to attack you. First night, I was like, oh my God. Second night, I'm like, that's strange. Third night, I'm like, oh, that didn't freaking happen. Right. So navigating those things are super tough. And we've been really clear we don't want our children to alter their lives to accommodate Brian's disease.
Yeah.
We're petrified because I took ill a couple of years ago. So will I physically be able to manage? As well, mentally, emotionally is hard enough, but physically will be a concern because at some point there will be a time where there's lifting and moving and transferring and feeding and all of those things, right? So our decision, and I understand this is very what's the word? Very personal, also they're controversial, that's a good word. But we have decided to go the route of MAID, medically assisted in death. But as many of you might be aware, that's kind of useless in Canada for people with dementia because of the consent rules. But we have found fabulous doctors, had a fabulous system, and been approved for that. So hopefully that's the route we're taking for both of us. Because people say, "Oh, my person wants that; it's their decision." It is 100% their decision, but it's also my life too. And this is going to affect my life fully and the children's lives. The children that can be present. Some of our children have become over caring. Oh, we look after our parents. No, you don't. I still do your laundry. Like, you don't look after us, right? And some of our children have totally withdrawn because they can't tolerate seeing us sick. I'm like, well, we're not so keen on it either, right? So we're very practical about our future. So it means that we embrace every moment, like literally every bloody moment is a gift, right?
Absolutely. I don't think I could say that better myself. Thank you. I know that wasn't easy to talk about. That was a difficult question, but it's often something we don't openly talk about, what happens later on, and how do we want things to look. And those conversations, I think, to be on the same page with your family and talk about what does quality of life look like for you? What does a good death mean to you? Those types of things are really important to talk about, and many of us just don't talk about them. So thank you. I appreciate your honesty and your vulnerability with
I
that
think
question.
I think that's a shame, Kim. My definition of the lived experience partner program that the society has is acknowledging I've got the disease and not afraid to talk about it. I think if you don't, all sorts of fear and anxiety amongst people who wonder why Uncle Phil isn't the same jolly guy he'd been at all the holidays we've had together and is now prone to these sort of outbursts of anger and stuff like that. Uh, I think the society itself has done a tremendous amount, especially with the helpline, for example. The First Link helpline in my took whatever fear and anxiety my wife and I had about my all of a sudden it wasn't all of a sudden, it was gradual, uh, peculiar behaviors and opinions and so on and so forth. Um, if we'd known earlier about it or not, if I hadn't resisted as long for her to, before she made the call, it would have cut, I think, the fear and anxiety in our family and the curiosity and what's wrong with Dad might have been cut in half and gotten the first 10 steps that your phone receptionists can lay out for a family who's brave enough to make that call.
I totally agree with you, Fred. When Brian was first diagnosed, I felt I had to be strong for Brian. And I'm known in the community as a powerful, mouthy woman that takes control of everything, right? So I didn't feel I could be vulnerable. So here I am trying to hold it together for the children, for my partner, for the community, and I'm falling apart. And I called the helpline, and somebody went, "Hello, this is who I am." And I was like, "Ugh." It's where I could be vulnerable. It's where I felt safe and protected. Like the helpline was just incredibly gifted to me to try and cope for those first few weeks, right? That I knew I had somebody who understood on the other end of the line. and could
Yeah.
help direct, right? Like it was, because
And
I
they,
was trying to direct and I had no idea what I was doing.
yeah, and they've got Mandarin and Cantonese and
Yeah.
Urdu and Punjabi and all the South Asian languages. And uh,
Probably
It
yeah,
know what a Luddite is as well.
I should
it
never have sent you that thesaurus.
it is a valuable resource, and I know Michael's been putting in the chat the helpline, and so I do encourage people to reach out because you're right, Penny. Like sometimes we don't have any other outlet where we can just let go and somebody can truly listen to us and understand and help us navigate, okay, what are next steps? Because we families take on a lot of pressure and put a lot on themselves to make decisions. And you need that support. The same with taking education together. I highly recommend taking the Shaping the Journey series if you're
Yeah,
starting this journey together, or the Family Caregiver series. I'm just being mindful of time, and I want to make sure we have an opportunity to share some of the great strategies. So if it's okay with everybody, I think I'm going to move to that section, and then if we have time, we can go back. But there were so many when we were planning this session. There were so many great and helpful strategies that you all have to maintaining communication and staying connected and just helping to live well as possible. So I'm just going to open the floor if you would like to share what are your top strategies for connection, communication, and just navigating this journey successfully.
Do you want to go ahead, Fred?
sure.
Sure.
My wife has been a teacher for 30 years in special education and dealing with developmentally delayed children and students and adults living now in their own or safe houses kind of thing. And so she created what I think is a fairly effective situation. She took little images of the kinds of things I do on a daily basis. And then the last thing I do at night before I go to bed is I set up what I have for the next day. For example, uh, let me see. Well, today, I guess, that's hiking in the morning with my next door neighbor. And that's showering after the hike. And that's dealing with email. And that's spending some time doing some music. My favorite one, of course, is the afternoon siesta and reading. And I got a little bit of that's for exercise. I do have a gym membership and I do have a little weight bench in the garage. And then the ritual at night starts with turn off your phone. Crosswords always make me tired. Read if you need to. Turn your light out. And there's the CPAP machine. And so every night I build the next day based on what I've got, what responsibilities I have, uh, and build a little bread time in where and when I can. But it sits on the kitchen counter. I walk by it a dozen times a day, and then and check in periodically to see what's next. And it's just been a good visual help as opposed to simply reading uh, to-do list or which can easily get misplaced. And it brings a visual component to what otherwise might get lost in my mind or on a piece of paper that I've written down what I was going to do today that has mysteriously disappeared.
And we just
So,
found as a family too that we were needing to create more visual or checklists that were tangible and in front of him for basic daily foundational needs, eating, bathing, and structuring his day, because without that, the things that we need to happen, whether he's going to be out in the public, um, were not happening, and we were either forgetting to do it or thinking he did it, and it was pretty apparent that he didn't. And so we tried to find a tool or a solution to kind of, we make the paper the bad guy. It's not a carer or a wife or a daughter reminding him to shower or to brush his teeth or to put deodorant on after a shower or a hike. So you'll notice that like the shower will be after a hike. And so it's kind of just that daily checklist, and um, recognizing that it's great when used, and it's great when used well. And so we're all learning, and we're working on trying to make it become more of a daily occurrence, but we're finding it helpful. He's bought into that in a good way. And so we're also hoping to try to get these major routine structure and kind of processes in place as early as possible, so that it's more muscle memory when we get to that point when we're having to have someone external come in, or he's not able to choose his own thing. We're just trying to have it as common as possible for him, like him used to it as possible.
Mhm.
Brian just will be right back. We did similar. We have a daily checklist laminated, feed the dogs, take the pills, right? So we have, and luckily, because we're both trained in assisting people with dementia and cognitive difficulties, I started that off like the minute we knew something was going on. As well as training where your Medi Alert, get your homing device on, making sure that those things become daily routine. We have the decision-making book that we talked about. That's been a game changer for us because it's not Penny said it, go look at your book, go look at the book, right? Um, but Brian wants to talk about the fact he's discovered Facebook, which initially was a complete pain in my butt because every time I turned around, he was on bloody Facebook. Brian, could you help? I'm on Facebook. I'm just doing it, became very important, but now it's settled down a little bit. But he uses Facebook as a memory tool. So every day he takes pictures of what has happened that day, like just generally regarding, we went for dinner, child visit, my mom, whatever. And with permission, he posts them because yesterday has faded. So he goes back on yesterday. So he has something to talk about. Remember last night we went for dinner with Zenzi? He only knows that because he looked at Facebook. Right. So he's using that as a memory tool, but it also has reconnected him with so many people, colleagues, friends from the past. I'm talking about Facebook.
That's incredible.
So just like that, we're talking about Facebook, I just said, as soon as Brian enters the room or enters a conversation where I'm speaking, because the paranoia is raising its ugly head, as soon as he enters, I tell him what we're talking about. Oh, we're just talking about, or we're just talking about, because he'll automatically think we're talking about him if I don't do that. So I just, yeah. Well, we are talking about you, actually. There's that sassiness, you see, right? So we have a lot of things that we try and navigate. And I've talked about this before on the webinars. Our biggest thing that has helped, or helped me, I should say, is that I have my Brian and I have Alzheimer Brian. My Brian would never speak to me the way Alzheimer Brian speaks to me, and has not spoken to me like in 26 years, and am I a professional, trained, and reacted very well the first time he told me to F off? No, I got out the chair with my fist raised, ready to take him down. I was so shocked, I just automatically went to smack him, right? And now I think, oh God, it was Alzheimer Brian. So that's the only way I can cope with some of the behaviors, especially the aggression. With what, like my Brian brings me coffee every morning. It's on my nightstand when I wake up. And yes, I'm a diva. But now Alzheimer Brian forgets. It's not that my Brian doesn't love me, because to me, that's what love is. Love is bringing my damn coffee in the morning, right? And now he forgets. And it doesn't mean he doesn't love me. It means Alzheimer Brian forgot. So that's how I cope, right? Now what'll happen, as soon as I say it publicly, I do get coffee for about the next 3 days before he forgets again. So I just have to keep saying it publicly, right? But we've been using those tools to try and
So we're good till
manage.
Saturday.
Well, good. I got coffee till Saturday. And I can make my own damn coffee, but that's not the
Yeah.
point, is
See how
it?
quick it was? Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Right. And
Well, my wife only asks me to tag 3 bases each day, something physical, something creative, and something social, which is pretty simple to remember and to do in the sense that as I say, I do a fair amount of hiking in the hills behind town and creatively I still write little ditties. Nothing is compared to Brian's ballads, uh, but and then social with like we discussed on the phone, connecting with guys I've known since high school or college, or the odd new relationship that comes up. Uh, that's that's a calming mechanism for me. And
We also do I mean, we touched on it in a funny way of like technology and dad haven't already kind of been best of friends. So Facebook and social media in general has been hard for us to manage of what to post and how many times he posts it or what he puts on that is not like he loves interacting with people.
that's the back of my phone. It
And we don't.
says online, don't buy anything.
Yeah, he can't online buy anything.
Good
But it'll
advice.
be something like he'll change his Facebook status like 36 times within an hour, and it's him thinking he's reaching out personally. So he'd be like, "Hey Penny, how's it going? How's Bri guy? I hope all is well." And he'll do a funny little ditty, and then 30 seconds later his status changes like, "Hey, Kim, how's it going? How's your thing?" And so we have levels in place to kind of help put that where it needs to be, but it has been great for his social thing. But similar to the way Brian uses it with photos, we also got a like a digital photo frame that all of our family can upload photos to. And just have in a constant kind of reel.
See it
And
over
it's
my
in
shoulder.
yeah, it's in a
Mhm.
public place where he usually spends a lot of his time. And I think that's kind of helped either just be in a positive mindset while looking at memories, whether he knows who's on the frame or not, or remembers when it was or who it was and all of that. But we've definitely used that tool because I think it brings that sense of calm and happiness and the memories back for him.
I know Penny had
Absolutely.
talked about it, but yeah, things fade so fast. But I got, if we talk, did you talk about it also? Yeah. Yeah. Like Christmas I looked at the Christmas photos yesterday and I know I was there. There's the
proof.
there's, but, and the vibe, I remember it was good. I remember, but details, you know.
And I think it's interesting because the tagline always says you must make memories. So in that we went for our first trip outside of Canada together this year. We went to Mexico for 2 weeks and we were making memories. Well, I have memories. Brian has forgotten about like what Mexico was. So we're making memories for who?
And what did,
And it's for me.
I,
Right. And that's important. I'm important too.
well, I hope that you're in some of the photos.
Katie's appreciated.
You're in some of the photos.
Well, we took dad to Mexico last year, 2 years ago, and yeah, it was good. Yeah, but yeah, the
Yeah.
pictures help.
And I tell you, the homing
Yeah.
device works internationally because I lost him in Mexico and I found him using the device.
And
Good.
and I'll
Oh,
tell you one
amazing.
thing about sharing. Our son said he didn't. He his trip to Mexico planned trip was altered, and he said he didn't have to go because he just
Watched your Facebook.
watched my face.
There we go.
All right. I hate to cut off our conversation, but I realize we are very close to 3:30. Um, I just want to draw attention. There are very many comments, just sharing their appreciation to all of you for being so open, for sharing your journey, how much it's resonated with the audience. And so a very, very special thank you
Yeah,
for
a
being
lot of
here.
folks on the chat line did some pretty serious sharing as well.
Absolutely. And thank you to our audience for being so open, for engaging with us, for being part of this conversation, which isn't always an easy one to have, and for showing all that support for our guests today. Thank you. I'm just going to pull up my closing slides here as we say goodbye. So we have come to the end of our discussion today. Just want to make sure my slide is,
Yep, it's good.
it's good. Wonderful. Um, if you can, please take a few minutes to complete a very short evaluation survey for us. The link to the survey will be in the chat box. It's also on the screen, just alzbc.org/feedback. It is truly vital for us to continue to improve our webinars and our content. I would love to know what topics you would like to see us explore next in our lived experience series. So if there's something we haven't touched on, there's something you want us to dig deeper into, please do let us know. I mean, we really want our content to be responsive to your needs. It will take you fewer than 5 minutes to complete. And then if you or someone you know is interested in supporting this society as a lived experience partner, and sharing your story and your firsthand experiences, we are always looking for new stories and new people to work with, and I'm very happy to connect with you. So please, you can email me at livedexperience@alzheimerbc.org, and that's also on your screen there. I've also included a link to where you can learn more about meaningful engagement opportunities through the Alzheimer Society on the helpful resources document. And then we've mentioned this a little bit throughout, and I know Michael's put it in the chat box, but we do have the First Link Dementia Helpline. English services are available Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. at 1-800-936-6033. And then we also have helplines for the Chinese and South Asian communities available from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and also a helpline number for folks living in the Yukon. And you will find a recording of today's session available on our on-demand webpage and our YouTube channel within a week, along with a wealth of other dementia education recordings. You can see we have a whole series of lived experience topics that we have covered. And then I just want to again thank everyone for joining us today. Thank you for our guests, to our guests for being here, and listeners, and for engaging with us in the chat box. So I wish you all a wonderful rest of your week, and goodbye for now. We hope to see you again at one of our webinars in the future.